Hello, and welcome to the 2020 National Diversity Council webinar series. My name is Dijon Campbell, and I support our learning and development resources and programs. We're extremely excited to have you join us. Our topic for today is Leading with Care During COVID-19, and our featured presenter is Cynthia Rocha. Cynthia is currently the CEO of L3 Lifelong Legacies. Cynthia, I will now turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Dijon. I really am honored to be asked to be a part of this webinar series. And so I am going to be taking us today on a journey of the unknown for many of us. And so I'm going to ask that we get ready today to be a part of this journey of leading with care during COVID-19. Thank you again to the National Diversity Council for giving me this opportunity. Our objectives for today are to realize that we are all in this together. We are all here as one big community. We are going to be talking about leading with care for our teams, our families, our communities, and the workplaces, realizing that we can all have an impact. I share a little bit about who I am. I am an advocate for change, and I have a passion for creating opportunities in the areas of education and the workplace for all communities. I really want to be able to share a little bit about my background, being the proud daughter and granddaughter of migrant farm workers. I believe that leadership is so important. And I've had the pleasure and honor of being a part of several leadership programs throughout, both here locally and nationally. So I'm going to take you through this journey, but one of my proud moments are that I am married and I have two beautiful children that I am now at home with during this time. And I'll share a little bit more about that here in a minute. So who is L3? We have about 25 years of proven experience in leadership development, diversity, customer service, team building, especially in those areas of education and retail. I really like to build emotional intelligence into all of the work that I do. We have an experienced team of other consultants that help us to really look at customizing all of the developmental needs that you have for your organizations. But most importantly, I have a passion for creating change in diverse communities and building bridges of success for all organizations. So why are we here? We think about all the things that are happening around us. Well, what is happening? The world is hurting. We are all struggling to understand. This coronavirus has had an impact. And I always like to think about when I have challenges in my life, do we have a choice? Can we be part of that solution, or are we going to be part of that problem? And so I think about the road that we are on today. Have we been impacted? How have you been impacted with COVID-19? Have you taken on new roles? Has your identity changed? I know for me, as I mentioned, I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and now I've taken on the role of being a teacher, more the teacher's aide, because the teachers, I have the utmost respect for teachers. I can even imagine what they're going through right now and trying to make sure that our children are taken care of. So hats off to all the teachers out there, all of the first responders and medical teams that are out there taking care of our communities. As a caretaker myself, I have an 85-year-old dad that I worry about as well. So I'm seeing it from both sides. And also the cafeteria lady. My kids jokingly call our homeschooling the Chancla Academy. And so because many times, we're talking about we've got to get things done. And we've been on this journey for couple of months now, and trying to just work through these things because, as we all know, this has been a whole life-changing experience. Has your work changed? Have you been furloughed? Or for some people, have you lost your job? Many times, myself included here, we're having to reinvent ourselves and look at things from a different perspective. And with all these changes, are you experiencing some roadblocks? What are some of your roadblocks? I know for me, sometimes we can be our own roadblocks. And what does that mean? You know, sometimes we're going to have to step out of our own comfort zone and try new things, like these Zoom meetings. Virtual meetings are now the new norm, so to speak. But what is happening around us? You know, I really think about the fact that this, as we look at this sign, the change is ahead. There's going to be a lot of changes that are going to be happening. I like this cartoon because it's kind of funny. They're all sitting around the table and they are saying, what if we just don't change at all? And something just magically happens. And I look at the sales and their profits are going down, and they're just thinking that maybe they can just not do anything and things will change. Well, we all know that that's not true. So what is change? Many times it's being able to say, everybody wants change. Everybody that, you know, we ask, everybody raises their hands. Who wants change? Well, in this picture, everybody, yes, of course we want change. But then when you ask who wants to change, all of the hands go down. So, you know, we are creatures of habit, but we like to kind of stay in our norm. But when, you know, I think about what's happening around us, I go back to this book that's been out for many, many years, but it's so true. Our cheese has moved. So, you know, we look at the lessons from Who Moved My Cheese? Well, change happens. We have to look at it, that they keep moving our cheese, and it's moving every single day. You know, some places are opening up, some places are not, some things are being challenging to us. So we have to be able to look at change, and we have to embrace change. You know, so when I think about the 4 characters, which one do you want to play? Which one are you going to be? Because if we stay and we don't want to change, then we're going to be stuck. And other characters, like the mice, are going to be out sniffing for new cheese and finding that before we do. So we all have to kind of self-reflect and see how we are going to embrace these new things. So you keep hearing, what will the new normal be like? You know, what we keep hearing, we want to get back to normal. We want to get back to normal. And I don't know what that looks like. So when I think about our new normal may differ. I keep hearing we're in the same boat. I don't believe that that's true. You know, we may be in the same ocean, and in some parts of the ocean, it is very chaotic. And in some, it's very calm. And so what's happening in my boat may be different than what's happening in your boat. You know, you may not have small children that you're having to also make sure that they're getting their education needs, or you may have that 85-year-old father that you're also trying to keep safe. So our new normal may be different. And so I look at this image, and the way you see things may be different from my perspective. And I want you just to look at this image, and I'm going to ask you, what do you see? Is he looking forward? Or is he looking to the side? For the longest time, it took me a while to see both. And for you, you may have a difficult time seeing the other side. But just like when we talk about diversity, it's looking through another lens. And so I want us to think about that as we go through this journey together. Because many times the power of reflection is, you cannot know where you're going until you know where you have. Exactly. You know, experiences change us. How will we respond to these changes? So as we go through this troubling time, how will we see ourselves in the future? Did we survive the storm? Did we bring hope? And will we have shown that we cared? And so as we continue on this journey, for us, this is what it's all about. And I'd like to take a moment to share, you've heard a little bit about my information, but I want to share a little bit more about who I am. I'll share my story, because for me, it is all about family, where I have come from. Meet Grandma and Grandpa Salcedo, Anselmo and Josefina Salcedo. These are my grandparents, and I love looking at this image. It looks like they're getting ready to go to church or just got out of church. They're wearing their Sunday best. Both of them have their wonderful hats on. And I always ask my mom about this picture because I was told that we never had a car, or my grandparents never had a car. And so I said, whose car is that? And so I think, my mom's like, I don't know, because I don't know whose car that was. And I jokingly would say, sometimes when we're out and about, we see a fancy car, we want to take our picture in front of it. So I think, wow, maybe that's what they were doing. I don't know. But I want you to kind of get a glimpse of where I have come from. Many in my workshops, I always try to do an icebreaker that's a little bit different. I always ask people to bring their most prized possession. And that prized possession is not an individual. It's not your husband or your spouse or your significant other or your children. I always ask them to bring a relic of some sort, some type of object. And it really is telling, because for me, this is my most prized possession. That if there ever was a fire, there's this one piece that I would just want to make sure. Because this was back in 1939. My grandparents were going through what was many of families are going through today. Many have lost their jobs. And for my grandfather, technology, other things were making an impact on his business of picking the fields of cotton. And he was going to be without a job. He was not going to be able to support his family in the only way that he really knew how. And so many people started to say, hey, if you're going to go look for a new job, you need to make sure that the new boss knows how great of a worker you were. And so technically, this was what we consider today a letter of recommendation. And for me, I look at the fact that my grandfather was from San Luis Potosí, Mexico. And my grandmother was born here. But in 1939, to have a white man say this about my grandfather, that Anselmo Salcedo, throughout the time he has been in our employ, we have found him to be a good farmer and thoroughly trustworthy. For me, these are the values that are instilled in me and in my family. It's about integrity. It's about the work ethic. And so you learn so much from individuals when you're asked to look at something from a different perspective and you get to know them on a deeper level. So as I mentioned, my family were migrant farm workers. And I want you to take a look at these images that you see here. You see children, you see hardworking, the conditions are not great. It's hard, backbreaking work. And then I ask you to look at today. You see the same types of images. That is a young, I believe she was 9 years old, working the fields. You see again, the hard work for little pay, no probably benefits. So what has changed from then to now? Not much. And I look at these images and I think really the only differences that I see from then to today is the fact that one's in black and white and one's in color. Meet my mom, Hortensia Rodriguez. And I love this image of my mom. Was my hero. And I see this image of her smiling in the miles and miles of the distance of looking at the fields of cotton. And mommy has a smile on her face. And I think about all the things that she had to endure. And I know that thinking about the values that my grandfather instilled in us and the values that my mother instilled in me, I look back and I don't know how they did it. When it was for me, education was the key to opening up doors for me. And so I was blessed because of the influence of my mother and all of my family. It was my grandfather's vision for me to go to college. And I see this as those are the things that have shaped me into who I am today, and how I use those values to help me as I make my decisions, how I raise my own children, and the things that I do out in the community, and the things that I do with anyone that I am connected with. So I'm going to ask you, what are those values that we've learned from others that have had an impact on our lives? Who is that one person in your life? Can you picture them? Was it your teacher? Was it a counselor? Was it someone in your church? Was it someone in your family? What values did they instill in you? Please take a moment. I'd like for you to take a moment right now, just get a little piece of paper and write some of those things down. Maybe take a moment, play some soft music, and really reflect. Who was it that had that impact on you, and how you live your life today because of them? Because today we will need to draw on those to help us get through these tough times. In all the work that I do, I believe in emotional intelligence. I believe in what is H3, the head, the heart, and the hands. Individuals will not have that intellectual buy-in until they have the heart, which is the emotional buy-in, and only then will their actions create that behavioral change, which is the hands. When I think about diversity and inclusion, when we can tell people that you have to be a certain way, you have to respect and dignity for all of those, but it isn't until they believe it in their hearts that that they will change their behaviors. And so when I think about the work of D&I, this holds so true, because it has to be full circle for an individual to have that buy-in. And again, here it is, as we look at, are we giving information, or are we asking for that transformation? Because this is when the true change happens, is when people are able to look at themselves and reflect, and it's going beyond that. When I see this image, we make decisions based on the IQ, but many times we have to go a little deeper and look at what's below the surface. What is having an impact? How are we making those decisions? We are looking at that self-awareness, the social awareness that's happening around us, and how we manage those relationships are going to be critical, especially now. This is the new, as our children are going to try to get back to school, as we are trying to enter back into the workplaces or wherever we're going. We are having to look at those things that we're doing ourselves. So why we talk about emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence allows us to better understand the people that we work with, those that are around us. This in turn promotes productivity in the workplace by making it easier for teams to bring out the best in everyone. While this seems like something that can be done, and many times organizations focus on, let's just do this with the policies and the procedures and the rules, but it takes more than that to really make a team function at its best. And as we're looking at this is why it's so important during this time of crisis. Emotional intelligence can help you and your people. And I say people because, again, it could be your home, it could be in your community, it could be in your work. The headlines are telling us every day. We can turn on the television and we can hear every single day that the coronavirus is spreading. The death roll is rising. And we see and understand, sometimes even personally, that the unemployment rates are going higher. People are losing their contracts. People are losing their jobs. This can trigger a huge amount of anxiety. So as a leader, how can you help? Emotional intelligence is the ability to identify, understand, and manage those emotions, both our own and those of others. Put more simply, it's the ability to make emotions work for us versus against us. Emotional intelligence can be very beneficial during a time of crisis, as it can help you to avoid panic, and really take the opportunity to think rationally. Many times it's really taking a step back and really trying to understand why we think the way that we do. It can also help you to connect with your people on a more emotional level. When I was looking at doing this webinar, to me, I think about the terminology that we're seeing more and more. It's about employee care. And I'm talking more about not just the physical care, not but the mental wellness of individuals and being able to trust. It is so important today that when employees feel that sense of trust and humanity, that will translate into their innovative and creative thinking. They will give their 100% to your customers. And we talk about a high degree of resilience. We'll go into that here in just a minute. But if there is, and we are experiencing this right now, an economic slowdown and companies need to reduce cost, employees who are treated well will understand that and will do everything they can to pitch in. Those who don't feel that they're part of the organization or that they're slighted, they may, if they have the opportunity, they may leave, making your business situation worse. So when I think about the individuals that I work with and that I've done trainings with, to me, this is about whether it's with parents or with students or with corporations or nonprofits. I always look at what impact that they're going to have. That mother who is a migrant mother who is trying to do the best that she can for her children, being able to be the best that they can, they might help bring out that innovation and creativity. I always look at every single person in my audience that I'm working with. That could be, when I worked with young women in engineering, that could be the young bright mind that could find the cure for cancer, to find out how to solve the problems of your organization that no one else has been able to tap into. So being able, that's the business case, and really understanding that people are your assets. People are the only asset in a company that appreciates over time. The longer employees work for you, the deeper their skills are, the better they're able to understand your products and your services. And the more relationships, again, we talk about I've been hearing relationships are the new currency that they have within your organization. It would be great if more CEOs thought this way. It is the secret to success. And this is a key thing that I found on the Society of Human Resources. Wages should not be treated as an expense. They should be viewed as investments. Again, your biggest asset in anything that you have within your organization should be viewed as your employees. As employers, you have that responsibility to create a truly human place to work. This means giving people meaningful jobs, clarifying their goals, forgiving them when they make mistakes. And guess what, folks? We are going to be making a lot of mistakes as we come back into, again, what we are trying to see as our new normal. Practicing random acts of kindness. You've heard that many, many times throughout, the years, but even more so now. Sometimes it's even just a simple thank you. Being generous at work and at home and in your communities. I haven't thought about this in a long time, but we always talk about the golden rule. Well, for us, it's really more of the platinum rule, because the golden rule says treat others the way you want to be treated. Well, how I want to be treated may be different the way you want to be treated, because the platinum rule gives us the opportunity to treat others how they want to be treated. But what is this going to require of us? How am I going to know how you want to be treated unless I have a conversation with you, unless I have a deeper understanding with you? And I think about the true business case of this, because it does have bottom line impact on productivity, employee turnover, again, that creativity and that innovation can flourish. Employee morale is so important. But the ultimate bottom line issue is, how does this affect your customer satisfaction? Because if your employees are happy, guess what? They're the face of your organization. And for many, they may not ever see the CEO. They may not ever see the senior VP of whatever. They're going to see the people that are on the front lines. And trust me, you can tell when you walk into an establishment, hopefully soon, but even just how people respond to the needs of the customer, whether it's going to be virtually, whether it's going to be in person, those are going to be the underlying issues that are going to have an impact on how your customers see. How you treat your employees is going to be how they are going to be treating your customers. And so I worked with an organization once, and I was very surprised because I was finding out again, and I was doing a presentation, and in that one time I found out that one of the employees, her mother worked in the same organization. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. And the boss didn't even know that. So I was like, wow, in less than 30 minutes, again, it took just having a simple conversation and getting to know your employees on a different scale is going to give you that impact and know what they're going through. So, when I think about what is leadership, who is a leader? Are you a leader? And what kind of leader do you want to be? Well, here's the official, definition of, you look in the dictionary of leadership: the action of leading a group of people or an organization, thinking about who they are. The people that usually you think about a leader, you think about people with titles. You think about the CEO or the VP or, those types of individuals. And I have a mentor who really kind of puts it in a nutshell. And she jokingly says, leadership is not about you. And she ends up saying, so get over yourself. And so we've got to be able to see that leadership is not the same as holding down a position. It's not about titles. In fact, many people who hold positions are not leaders at all in that sense. Leadership is the ability to set a new direction or vision for a group that they are willing to follow. The key word here is willingly. If you have to force people to follow you, you have to beat them up over the head, you're not really a leader. So when I think about what we can do to have an impact, I look to see about impactful leadership. Because impactful leadership is about making long-lasting, positive, and meaningful contributions to their organizations and beyond, through their communities and in the lives of people and of the world. Being an impactful leader doesn't have to do with the clothes that you wear, the car that you drive, or even the way that you look, not even the way that you speak. And so I want to share with you this video, and I want to give you an opportunity to view this and think about how we can make an impact.
When we're laying on our deathbed, you're not going to worry about how much money you had, how much power you had, how much prestige. You're going to see that that was all game, that was all an illusion. The only thing that's going to matter is the impact you had on other people's lives.
We are all on a separate journey. But the beautiful thing about our life here on this earth is at my funeral, they ain't going to talk about my success. They're going to talk about who Nick was and how Nick lived and how Nick loved and encouraged.
Success is incredibly important, but even more important than success, it's having an impact. It's knowing you haven't walked the planet in vain. It's It's knowing that because you've been here, you've blessed lives, you've developed people, and you have made the world a better place.
The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart.
Life is a mirror. And life gives us not what we want. Life gives us who we are. When you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice.
I'm going to ask you to reflect on this video. And again, normally we would take a moment to play some soft music, but I'm asking you to do that at the end of our webinar, is really write down, what did you take away from this video? One of the things I really liked hearing was, the most valuable currency is those relationships. And life is a mirror. And I think about, what do I want to see when I look in that mirror? What is the reflection that I want to see? Many times you talk about what you want to be remembered for. And this is a time that we really think about that. What impact are we making on other people that they will remember you? Not about your title, not about the car that you drove, not about any of those other things, but the things that make a difference in their lives. So, what is servant leadership? The impact that people can have on other individuals. And I see some of these do have titles, but they've all been great leaders in their own unique and beautiful ways. I think about someone like Dolores Huerta, who was really a lot of times behind the scenes. People know about Cesar Chavez, but a lot of people don't know the role that Dolores played. She took a beating. She was, imprisoned, and she's still fighting today for the injustices that are happening in our society. And to think about what impact, I know in that particular one, the issues of trying to help the migrant farm workers, that had a personal impact on me. And here, all these years later, I was blessed to have the opportunity to meet her and to thank her for all the work that she did for our family. She never even knew my grandfather or my family, but she had an impact on them because of the actions that she did, because actions will speak louder than your words. And to do those ordinary things with extraordinary love, how will people remember you in the things that you do for them? And whether it's in your own home, whether it's in your community, or whether it's in your workplace. And I spoke earlier about resiliency, and when we think about the capability to recover quickly from difficulties, that toughness, being able to find that resiliency in yourself, because people are resilient. When we think about a rubber band, and you see how in this image that the rubber bands are being stretched probably to their limit. Like, I feel like this lady sometimes, and I think about that rubber band. Many times you think, wow, it's gonna break, but it doesn't. It comes right back. And we need to see ourselves like that rubber band, we can bounce back. We will bounce back. We can be flexible and we can flourish. It's all on our own ability to be resilient and be able to overcome many of the challenges that we're going to be having as we try to come back to that some type of normalcy. But I also want us as leaders, many times we're worried about everybody else. You know, as a mother, I worry about everybody else. But every time I get onto a plane, I'm reminded that I have to put on, in case of an emergency, I have to put on my oxygen mask first, because I can't take care of my child or anyone else if I'm not able to take care of me first. So I love this image that says you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to take care of yourself first. It's about the mind, the body, and the soul. So what are you doing to take care of yourself? I've done it in the past and I've kind of gotten away from it. But now that I've had more time to really think about and be able to try to find the time to meditate, the meditation gives you that opportunity to self-reflect, to put things out to the universe, to really focus more internally on how do I want to be that leader, the things that I want to make sure that I'm taking care of, the head, the heart, and the hand. As we do this, journaling gives you that opportunity as well. I had my daughter, who's 11. I wanted to understand and see how she was feeling through these times. And so I had her journal, because I told her, in my whole lifetime, I've ever experienced anything like what we're going through right now. Schools have never closed, businesses have never closed. And I wanted her to take the time to remember 20 years from now, what did you take away from the things that are happening? So, you know, being able to do that and be respectful of the journals, because ask if they can read it. But what I found from her was that she was taking this all in. In her mind, the streets were closed. The streets weren't closed, but in her mind, that's what she saw. And so being able to take sometimes what's in our minds and putting it on paper, and it doesn't even have to be words. It can be pictures. It can just be scribble, but play some journaling, some spiritual, relaxing music to take what's in our heads and get it out on paper, and then get rid of it, throw it in the trash, do something with it. The last, I need to do a better job of this myself, is really getting out and exercising. Vitamin D, getting out in the sun, being out in nature is critical, because it's so easy to get caught up in doing the Zooms and doing the meetings, the virtual meetings. Take time for you to get out there and breathe in that fresh air. Take your kids with you. Make sure that they are experiencing that as well. For many times, this is the time that we have family time, quality time. Watch more movies with the kids than I can remember, but it's something that they will never forget. They will never forget the time. And I don't want them to remember mom has been on them about their homework. I want them to remember the family times, the cooking that we've done together, the sitting together as a family, having a meal. Those are all going to be so important as they reflect back, because you are going to have that impact on them. So at the end of all of this, what do you want people to remember about your leadership? What legacy do you want to leave? Do you want to live? When we can finally get back to some type of whatever that normal is. Did you rise to the occasion? Did you do what you had to do to help others? Did you make that impact? Did you serve others? And so will they see, more than anything, we talked about this from the very beginning, will they see that you cared for them? And so this is my favorite quote, and I think it speaks to emotional intelligence just in a nutshell, that I've always learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I had the honor of hearing Dr. Maya Angelou speak one time, and I I could just feel her energy. And she did make you feel. She did make you stop and think. And so in this trying times of what we're going through right now, be that person that when people walk away from you, they know that you care. So as we come to a close, I hope that on this journey that we've been together all day today, that we experience that future of success, that we get to that destination of making that impact with all the people that we care about, and that we can make a difference in the lives of others and continue to be safe and continue to do the things that we need to do to help us get back to that place. So hopefully that we leave you with your tank a little bit fuller today than it was, and that give you that roadmap for success. And congratulations, you are on your way. And I appreciate all of the opportunities that the National Diversity Council has given me to be able to present to you today. So if you have questions or comments that you would like to leave for me, this is my contact information. Feel free to give me a call. That is my direct cell number, and that is my email. And I will be glad to help you in any way that I can. And if we can make even a little difference in this world by working together, I look forward to doing that. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. We appreciate you taking the time to educate our audience on this important topic. I know my takeaway was life is a mirror, and life gives you not what we want, life gives us who we are. So really, we appreciate you sharing this insight with us. This concludes our presentation for today. Thank you for viewing the webinar. If you have any questions or concerns, you may email me at dijon.campbell@nationaldiversitycouncil.org. Please enjoy the rest of your day.